Barb, are we waiting for anybody else to arrive?
Not that I know of.
Commissioner Newman? Are you expecting?
Oh, Mike?
Wiener?
Yeah. Should be here. I told him by 3, so, I mean, you can start. We got public comments, I don't care.
We are ready to go, so make sure you just speak. Everybody just make sure they speak into their microphones so that the parties on the phone are able to hear.
Okay, we'll go ahead with the public comment then.
Make that announcement? Sure. Okay, for public comment, we did receive one today from a Mark Hoffman. He sent that by email to the county clerk file at 12:52 p.m., and I will read that into record now. Commissioners, my name is Mark Hoffman, and I own a lot on 13442 Fawn Drive since 1994, so I am fairly long-term, part-time resident and full-time taxpayer. I was somewhat disturbed when I was informed of this meeting. Thankfully, with a decision being made to road improvement standards at this late date, to keep within the 120-day decision period, I was disturbed that this is rather major decision is not mentioned in the meeting agenda. Now I'm reading this word for word, so I just want you to bear with me. Having lived here soon to be 26 years, I am not inclined to see this road improved, other than possible culverts and stormwater retention needs. For this time, I have been a part of this road's homeowners that have paid for maintenance and snow plowing. The road sees heavy traffic regularly from garbage trucks, propane trucks, septic system trucks, delivery trucks, and the maintenance trucks, not to mention utility trucks that use this road. Although we pay township taxes, I am sure they are being used for other purposes and would have to be supplanted by the township. Around 2000, Mr. Michaels opened Fawn Drive Road to include the last 3 properties that at that time were serviced by their own road. That is now marked a trail on county plat maps and had to put in cul-de-sac for emergency vehicles. Not sure, but believe you can see the outlines on the GIS photos. My major concern at this time is you are not giving the homeowners any consideration in the construction and the payment options being put on the table for land that have a covenant that will not allow new home construction. Therefore, no new traffic unless Fawn Drive is opened through the ravine at the east end of the current road. If you should decide improve the road, my hopes of your concern is for the safety of the residents, would be to expand Fawn Drive through the ravine and give a much larger tax base to alleviate the cost of this unnecessary addition to the preliminary plat application. Hopefully you look at Fawn Drive, west of Fern Drive, and other roads in the immediate area to bring them up to standards. Thank you for this opportunity. Sincerely, Mark G. Hoffman, Crystal, Minnesota.
Thank you.
Could we have copies of that?
Sure, we sent them to you via
Oh, did you?
email.
Because I didn't see that.
Yeah, Jolene sent them on to you guys just
I
before.
didn't bring my iPad, so
Okay.
I wanted.
Can you make a quick copy?
I don't know if my email was working the best. I was trying to forward some stuff to my email and it wouldn't take it, so.
You'll have to check your size and see if maybe your mailbox is full.
Oops.
Well, how did you know the answer to that so fast?
I know where mine is sitting.
Yeah, she sees each one of us, right?
Wait, she might be right on that.
Yeah, I know. Randy sent me photos for today, and so I sent them to her. I was going to, and I said, "Would you like me?" Stop, she said. My inbox is way too full for any more photos.
Yeah.
I thought, wait a minute now,
Yeah.
your inbox is overloaded?
Once a month, I take 10 minutes and
But
I
what
try to,
happens-
but yeah. But
And 10 minutes later, you need the one
when
you
you
deleted.
get 30 a day, it's
Yeah.
kind of impossible to keep up.
Does that help to file it? I know nothing about what I'm talking about, but like you said, if you file, then that relieves the main area?
Yeah, I file it just how we work. We file it in our subfolders on the side, and then when those projects are done, then we take it over to our server,
Okay.
and then they're off of our email systems.
Oh, I gotcha.
Thanks, Chris.
I do know how,
Yeah.
You gotta take the effort to do it.
Say, Chris, did you print off the township's resolution, so each board member had a copy of that?
I certainly can.
Could you please?
and I know how to delete, I mean, like completely unnecessary ones.
Oh, sure.
To remove them from there, and that does help. I mean, you get rid of half of them anyways. but I've never tried filing.
Usually the big ones, I do a reply all and select all to the whole public works, just to clog up the system.
Yeah,
And then we time it to see how quick by Teal. No, but those big ones can really,
I do know how to go in and grab files, like at the shop, she files everything on the side, and I can go into my files and grab stuff, but I don't know how to put it there.
See, that's what I ran into when I was sending those pictures, because you can only click on so many, otherwise it'd kick you out. It's like, shit.
Yeah.
And which ones did I send? There you go, thank you.
Thank you, Chris.
Have an extra copy.
thank you.
She can start.
Well, they said we can either park on land tomorrow or park on the
Good
lake.
afternoon, and welcome to the special board meeting of the Board of Commissioners. All commissioners are here. Commissioner Kenizel will be attending by phone. We will have no amendments to the agenda, being we can only specifically talk about what the special meeting is being held for. Chris?
Okay. Thank you, Madam Chair. Due to COVID-19 restrictions, the public is not allowed to attend in person at this time. We welcome the public to view the live
Closes on
stream
its own.
of the board meeting with the link provided on the county website. Attending remotely today are the media, Jason Kubishek from Iverson Reavers Law, Doug Lean, Commissioner Kenizel. Attending in person is Adam Ossifort, Planning and Zoning Soil and Water Director, Lauren Fellbaum, Public Works Engineer, Mike Weiner, Planning and Zoning Board Chair, Denise Gaida, Auditor Treasurer, and myself, Chris Pelzer.
Thank you.
And I'm sorry, Madam Chair, I should have said Planning Commission Board Chair.
We will stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mike, I believe, if you want to, you can, there's a chair up here. And Adam, I'll let you go ahead
Okay,
and,
sure. Our one item on the agenda today is the DC Lien Addition Preliminary Plat. A subdivision request to establish a 20-lot preliminary plat on parcel 15-004-0000 was approved by the Planning Commission on November 5th, 2020. This was brought before the Board of Commissioners on November 17th, 2020, where it was remanded back to the Planning Commission. The item was then reviewed by the Planning Commission on December 3rd, 2020, and January 7th, 2021. The Final recommendation of the Planning Commission was to approve the preliminary plat with the following conditions. 1, completion of a wetland delineation. 2, submittal of a stormwater management plan designed by a licensed engineer. 3, installation of stormwater management plan prior to final platting. 4, placement of a public right-of-way turnaround area at the east end of Fawn Drive. Turnaround area must meet county standards and be designed by a licensed engineer. 5, creation of covenants addressing who is responsible for maintenance of the stormwater management plan. 6, lots 1 through 7 shall be restricted to accessory structures only. No residential development will be allowed on lots 1 through 7. And 7, the developer and future property owners must obtain appropriate permitting when necessary from other governmental agencies, including but not limited to the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency and the Sauk River Watershed District. The options today would be moved to approve the establishment of the DC lien addition preliminary plat with proposed conditions, or move to deny the establishment of the DC lien addition preliminary plat, and the recommendation would be approval of the DC lien preliminary plat with the proposed conditions. That's all.
Okay, I guess I will ask for discussion again. We'll open it up. Do you have a map to put up?
Sure. I can just click my thing here, right?
Yep.
Okay. There we go. That's what you're looking for, right?
Yes.
And I also have the actual preliminary plat drawing too readily available if we need to switch over to that.
Okay.
Well, Madam Chair, this is Commissioner Newman. I found it quite interesting that Michael's Beach subdivision that was put in actually goes on the other side of the ravine, so that last address of 13654 is Feather Drive. So I don't understand why that road was not put all the way through from the beginning, number one. We did move this meeting to today to get a response from the township. And as you can see, the township did pass with some recommendations. I support those recommendations. What I found interesting, though, was the supervisor that was at the dirt team meeting that was against any development of the road, did not sign the resolution from the township. So I don't know, and I did not see the minutes of the Leslie Township Board from September to now. I have no idea if they even discussed this, so. But I would support the recommendation from the Leslie Township Board.
Can we add that into as a condition? What's the standing?
Yeah, we can modify conditions as appropriate. Again, Jason's on the line to provide any additional input. Taking the township's recommendations, I had worked with Jason to kind of generate some potential conditions that could be applied. Again, one of the conditions from the township, our recommendations, sorry, was the connection of the two roads, and in our understanding from Jason that really is not really relevant to this particular plat because it's an off-site improvement. And Jason, you can step in if I'm getting off base here. So I didn't create any potential recommendations for that because of it's not related to the plat. On the other one, I did create a couple potential conditions if there's something you want me to just read for the time being at least. Okay, so the first one in relation to the upgrade of Fawn Drive. A potential condition could read as, the developer must enter into a development agreement with the township and the county for the purposes of upgrading Fawn Drive to current road standards. The developer shall be responsible for creation of the development agreement, which will be reviewed and approved by the township and the county. The approval of the development agreement must be completed prior to final plat approval. And then in relation to the township's recommendation of the shared driveways onto 210. A potential condition could read as, lots 8 and 9 shall have a shared driveway. Lots 10, 11, and 12 shall have a shared driveway. Lots 13 and 14 shall have a shared driveway. And driveway easements must be completed and recorded for each shared driveway. Lot 16 shall only be granted access via Fern Drive. And just to kind of put this in better perspective, 210 is along down at the bottom here. They can see my mouse, right? Yep. Okay. Is along the bottom here, so 8 and 9 would share. 10, 11 is in the center, and 12 would have a shared driveway kind of in this long stretch of 11. 13 and 14 would share. That would open up 15 to have its own, but 16 would be restricted to an access on Fern Drive to eliminate a driveway in that respect.
And Madam Chair, I was reminded from Gordon Township Supervisor, Benny Redning, that there is a statute that requires the county, if there's any development on a shared road between townships, that they are required to be notified. I did not know that. I didn't want to get into it with him, but I did contact our coordinator. He was very happy that I did call him and inform him. They're concerned about the traffic on there. So, Chris, thank you for sending, I see you sent him an email. So, again, concerns from another jurisdiction that should have been informed.
Lauren, any comments as far as road goes, turnarounds versus going through?
Yeah, I reviewed this as part of the preliminary plat review.
Okay.
I made a couple of comments. The first one was about sight distance for those lots up there on the screen, 8 through 16. Just there's limited sight distance going east and west. So people pulling out wouldn't be able to see a long distance. So there's a concern with that. And I just recommended that the township, both Leslie and Gordon, review those. And I see that at least Leslie has and made a pretty good recommendation as far as combining those. I did look at the road to the north there, and made the recommendation that it really doesn't meet any current guidelines as far as classes of road, that potentially it should probably be upgraded. And then there's a concern about the turnaround or the connection on the east end there, and made the recommendation that either some type of turnaround cul-de-sac or the connection between those roads be made. But those were just recommendations to the Planning Commission.
So, Madam Chair, I had a conversation with one of the landowners up there last night, and his concern was messing with the lots that are already established on Michael's Beach. And I said, most of the time, Leslie Township, what they've been doing, and it'd be like Ferret Drive, the ditches are on the south side. The reason why the ditches are on the south side is because the lots are so small on the north side. That's why. Mm-hmm. So the land was given to the township to put the ditches on the south side, not to interfere with the lake shore. And I told that gentleman last night, I said, I have to agree with you. You know, if Fawn Drive was updated, you can't put any ditches on that side. All the ditch has to be on the south side. You can see that whether it's on Ferret Drive or you can go down to Eastwood Drive. You know, the township have been pretty good about that, of putting the ditches on, you know, the ag side. And that's what they were. It was all agricultural. So if they upgrade Fawn Drive, that's what they got to do. Everything's got to be done to the south, not mess with the north. To stay the way it's been, the way they've been doing it.
Mike, comments?
One thing that I found interesting at the township meeting that I attended is looking at the plat, we've got two different names for the same road. Fawn and Feather, when that's platted, is actually one road. That was platted as one, there was no gap there for the ravine. That should either have one name or the other. So looking at it as two separate roads is probably an issue too. It should have been one. It was platted as one, regardless of whether the ravine is there or not. So I thought that was kind of interesting. We keep looking at this as two separate entities when it really isn't. Did a site visit out there as well. An interesting piece of property. And the road is obviously an issue. So I'm not sure if you just want a recommendation or,
Recommendation for the board decides, but yeah, we're.
Well,
We already have a
Absolutely, that's-
recommendation
Madam
from
Chair, I
the
don't-
planning
I
commission.
don't think that's proper for one to give a recommendation when we've got
Absolutely
one from the
not.
planning
No.
commission.
okay.
Do you agree with the present recommendation that we're looking at as from the planning commission?
With the cul-de-sac or,
Yeah,
because that's what was presented before the board.
that's correct. It was a cul-de-sac that was presented before the board. Since then, we've had a township meeting,
Right. The
got new
recommendation,
information now since you've had a board meeting.
right. The township made the recommendation to complete the road through that, and I believe that's a sound recommendation.
Well, I think we're forgetting one thing, Madam Chair, that the township also made the recommendation at other meetings without that recommendation. And we looked at that, and so now it has flip-flopped, which may have happened for whatever reason it may be. I don't know that.
But Commissioner Erickson, you gotta understand, just because one individual from the township recommended something, that is not a board decision of the township.
Right.
I can make recommendations all the time here. I'm just one person. I have to have at least two more of you to make a decision.
Correct. I don't
Okay?
disagree with that.
So, I mean, and he didn't even sign the damn recommendation. So, the individual
I would guess
that,
he disagrees.
well, I'm sure he disagrees,
Well,
but
that would
that's,
be his right.
well, the vote is right here. It's signed. They voted on it. It passed. That's the way it is.
So did the planning commission.
So did the planning commission.
They voted on it also.
That's right. This has been in front of this township for 4 or 5 months. I have a hard time believing that someone was sent to the dirt meeting by the township without communicating with the township. I don't have the township meeting minutes, nor do you. But it's really hard to believe that there was a representative at these meetings without authorization from the town board, or at least communication.
So I think it sends a very clear message from now on that these boards send to the county board and to the planning commission in writing. Okay, like it is right now. And I agree with you, Commissioner. But it's in writing now. Is it a little late?
Yes.
Maybe, but you know what? We can add it as a condition. That's our job.
Excuse me, I think it was real interesting, this comment from Mark Hoffman, and he starts out by wanting to know how come we're doing this on a short notice, and it's been out there and in front of everybody for all this time. And I don't know if it's COVID or has something to do with the relation of this, but I mean, just his comments on that letter today is interesting. I'm going to ask Gary, who's on the phone, if Gary, do you have any input?
Commissioner Kneisel, do you have any input?
It's echoing back, but he's getting it, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Somebody's watching it on YouTube while
Right.
they're also on the phone.
Yeah, it's crossing.
Madam,
Oh,
no. All that. Madam Chair, I'd like to
Yes,
speak in
absolutely.
respect to your letter that you addressed from Mr. Hoffman. And In there, I believe what he's insinuating or associating with is the short notice of the addition of the fact that they are looking at upgrading the road, because the road was never talked about being upgraded at any of the planning commissions other than during the dirt meetings during the planning. And there were questions asked in regards to that, because this was not brought forward as a condition from the planning commission to upgrade this road. The part of adding the cul-de-sac was discussed, and the people from that end of it would have been made aware of that. So if I'm wrong, let me know, but I believe the way I'm reading that letter or hearing that letter read is the fact that we're making changes that would affect all 15 of these taxpayers drastically at the last minute without having it in the planning ahead of time. I believe that that's the way that letter should be interpreted. It's not the fact that the whole process was not clear to them as what was going on. It's the addition of the change with the road. And I also spoke with a number of these people and called them personally. I did not contact one person down there that wants any improvements on this road. And in talking with our road person, Jason, I'm under the understanding that there's a process where this can still happen. They can still get this road updated, and it happens with a communication line between the township, the people, and the county or whoever works with it, however, but it can certainly still be done at a later date with some communication.
There's a statutory process to upgrading township roads where if that was a decision they wanted to do outside of the plating process, there is a process that you probably know a heck of a lot more about, Lauren, than I do. So, but there is a process for that set out in statute.
Incorrect. And there's 3 ravines in there that are running directly into Lake Osakis, okay? Now we're spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on one watershed, one plan to create better water quality. And what are you gonna do with this road, Adam? Tell me.
So the ravines were being addressed through the stormwater management plan with on-site management of the water. So hopefully those ravines would be in better shape.
You're gonna be adding culverts in there. You're gonna be adding approaches in there, okay? Okay, you start putting 50 by 100-foot sheds on there, and you're gonna get a substantial amount of runoff. Are those culverts sized correctly to handle that water flow?
The ponds would be sized appropriately according to engineering standards to handle all that water. Based on the size of the watershed, there's engineering
So
standards
without the
for
road being built up to county specs, you're just guessing.
I'm not guessing. That's why we have the licensed engineer involved in the project, because I am not qualified to make those decisions. So
I'm
we
not
bring in
either.
professionals that would know exactly what they're doing and used
And I
standards that are
I
set
haven't
out.
seen that.
Nope, and we have not either. And the developer's not going to spend time and money getting those plans together until the preliminaries
So
approved.
can we change that after we pass the preliminary today?
You
No.
can't change condition. No.
No, we
but-
can't.
But we would never approve the final plat until that stuff is designed, engineered, and installed. And we could go to
just-
final platting.
You know, I just got an uneasy feeling.
Mike?
So Commissioner.
The I should be
Yes.
dotted and the T should be crossed.
I'm sorry, could I,
Yeah.
Madam Chair, I'm sorry. You mentioned the road and that it wasn't discussed before. I don't believe that's quite accurate. There was talk about the road, I believe, from the first meeting. And we were told that the road couldn't be updated because, I don't remember how it was stated, that the landowners would have to approve it, something to that effect. And that's why I originally called Jason, because I said, this doesn't really make sense to me. The other thing that was talked about is redesigning the plat. Because if that road is an issue and the landowners want it private, then maybe the plat should be redesigned where a cul-de-sac would be put in the center, that lot 11, and then there would be no issues with Fawn Drive. Because there would be no access from those lots to Fawn. So you wouldn't be changing anything on that side. So it was discussed. The other thing that came up at the township meeting is if there's no road authority along Fawn Drive, and there's approaches and driveways put in, who regulates it, who makes sure the culverts are at the right height, length, depth, anything else, because all of that runoff is gonna go somewhere into Lake Osakis. And if it's not controlled at the road, where the majority of that runoff is gonna be, it's either gonna end up in 1, 2, or 3 of the ravines. And there's substantial hills there. So if you're not keeping an eye on the road or have no control over the flow there, there's erosion issues. The individual who's currently doing the road work on Fawn Drive had said that in the past, it was maintained probably a little bit better than it is now. He said usually he gets contacted when there's ravines or washouts, and said that it becomes an issue. So that tells me there's already some runoff issues that are going on. But if that road isn't, if there's no authority on it, then any of the runoff can go into the lake. And that just doesn't affect the landowners there, it affects the landowners around the lake.
I guess, Mike, that brings up a real interesting issue, because we've been dealing with a public road that they would like to have the township take over, the township.
townships,
Yeah,
actually.
actually.
Denise, you want to
Actually
bring,
doesn't want to take over that road right now.
Bring up that one
But I
picture.
mean,
I don't want to click mine, right?
yeah, so I mean, these roads can cause problems for years
Right
to
there.
come.
That's the entrance, Dave, to Fawn Drive.
I drove down there with my 24-foot truck in two-wheel drive just the other day after we talked about this. Drove to the other end, turned around just fine, drove out.
We have no snow right now, though, Rod.
The road is in good
Actually,
condition
the road
for
is
the
wider
width
than
of the
most.
road it is. It's not a township
Not a
road.
trail,
It's not under the jurisdiction of the township, so why would they make it bigger at this time? They're all content. Everybody down there is happy with what they have. And in relationship to your water runoff, and I think Adam addressed that too, the water delineation part of this is controlled by people or watched by people that are in charge of that. That's why you have those people involved with the project.
So why are we dedicating 66-foot easement to the public for road right-of-ways if we can make them private? That's a dedicated public road right-of-way. It was platted that way, and that's the way it is. It's not a damn private drive, Rod.
It's a
I have the
public
same
road.
thing on my mom and dad's. It's a public road right-of-way, privately maintained, okay? But it's still a public road right-of-way. Anybody can drive up and down that. So in order for the township to take it over,
But Randy, you've got a private drive sign on the end of it. Is
I-
it public or is it private?
It's public.
That's put up by the landowners, that's a,
it's-
that's
it was
a
put by the
natural thing.
landowners. It was put by the landowners to keep people out.
Yeah, it's just there.
It's
They don't
on
want people
It's
driving
meaningless,
down
really,
there.
so,
I don't blame them.
But still, it's a public road right-of-way.
yeah.
I wouldn't want people driving down there if I lived there, so I guess I don't feel that's a bad thing,
Madam Chair,
if you want your
If I could.
privacy.
I was down the same road, Commissioner Erickson. I know what it looks like. Yeah, it is a public road. The other concern that the township has is, especially around certain parts of that lake, is the number of dead-end roads and the turnarounds and so forth. They said, we don't want any more of these. So now it wasn't put in the resolution, but that was one of the things they wanted to see. What were talked about or discussed was connecting those dead ends to eliminate that, because landowners, land changes hands. It does. Next set of landowners may not be happy with that road. And then you can have a petition to,
Madam Chair, I have a concern with the chair of the planning commission here. I don't know if he's giving his opinion or if he's representing the planning commission.
I think you attended a township meeting, you're
Attended
Well,
discussing.
that's
township
fine,
meeting as
but,
well.
um,
That's what this is,
I'm
his
just concerned.
conversation was
Okay, I'm
from a
just
township
concerned
meeting
about,
you attended.
he is the chair of the planning commission and then coming in and talking to us I don't want him representing the planning commission, because I'm assuming you voted on this.
I did.
And what'd you vote?
I voted based on the information we were given at that time, without the input from the township, that the turnaround at the
Okay.
end,
And not connect them.
at that time with the information we were given.
All right.
Comments?
I'm gonna move that we, add the recommendations from the Leslie Township Board to the conditions and leave it at that, and they can, everybody else can figure out what they gotta do, and they're the road authority.
Okay, and what would those conditions be, Adam?
Well, just to clarify, so we're all on the same page, there was 3 recommendations from the township. The connection of the 2 roads, the upgrade of Fawn Drive, and the driveway, the shared driveways. Is that what we're all agreeing on? And so, Randy, if I'm understanding that, you're suggesting that we place conditions to connect the 2 roads, upgrade, and the driveways. Now, we had talked about the connection of the 2 roads being an off-site improvement. Is that something that we still, I guess, would be part of your motion then, that they still be connected?
I would say yes.
I don't know
because-
what that
Because
can-
there's gonna be, and I can't get into that, but, yeah.
Lauren, do you have any expertise on what we're trying to do right here as far as connecting? Who's got the right to do it? Do we even have the right to tell the township to do it? Do we, you
Boy, I
know?
would,
We need
I
to
would
ask our
have to.
attorney that.
Yeah,
I'd
Jason.
I'd have to defer to Jason on this one. That's really outside of my expertise.
Okay,
Mr. Chair, Chairperson, Board, if I can just weigh in on the recommendations from the township.
yes.
And I almost read it to say or, I mean, and just this one being an infrastructure plan put in place, the driveways put in place. I'm not quite sure what that means, and I think that's why Adam kind of said, well, we don't know what that means, we look at the other 3. And then the first one would be a plan for undeveloped maintenance road bond drive to be brought up to a Class A specification. As I understand
So, Jason, Commissioner Newman again. So if there's any future development, and I know I'm not supposed to bring that into this, any future development to the east by Feather Drive, and they have to put another cul-de-sac there, so you're saying that we could not put a condition on then?
To the extent that you're looking at property to the east of this,
Yeah,
that directly abuts Feather Drive.
yes.
I think that's a different scenario, because that is directly adjacent to that development, and you would have, opportunity again to make findings, but I think it's more likely that is rationally related, to that particular parcel. Where in this case, this particular ravine and potential culvert is not directly adjacent to this development. So, you're gonna have to come up with findings, but it's a higher burden for it to show us rationally related.
Trying to digest that a little bit.
And I guess one last thing, Commissioner, Board Chair, in looking at this, Fawn Drive has been platted as a 66-foot dedicated public right-of-way. So to the extent that this road is going to be improved, at whatever classification, whether it's Class B or Class A, it would be within the entire 60, I mean, you'd utilize that 66-foot public right-of-way. So you'd have to make sure that, at least for those lakeshore owners, don't have any structures in that public right-of-way, they would have to be removed if they do.
Yeah, I see them down on Ferret Drive too, where I live, so, in the road right away. So what's the list of conditions? Repeat them back, would you please?
Yep, absolutely. So the existing conditions would be, number one, a completion of a wetland delineation. 2, submittal of a stormwater management plan designed by a licensed engineer. 3, installation of a stormwater management plan prior to final platting. 4, placement of a public right-of-way turnaround area at the east end of Fawn Drive. The turnaround must meet the county standards and be designed by a licensed engineer. 5, creation of covenants addressing who is responsible for the maintenance of stormwater management practices. 6, lots 1 through 7 shall be restricted to accessory structures only. No residential development would be allowed on lots 1 through 7. 7, the developer and future property owners must obtain appropriate permitting when necessary from other governmental agencies, including but not limited to the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency in the Sauk River Watershed District. Then in relation to the township's recommendations, a couple possible options would be the developer must enter into a development agreement with the township and the county for the purposes of upgrading Fawn Drive to current road standards. The developer shall be responsible for creation of the development agreement, which will be reviewed and approved by the township and the county. Approval of the development agreement must be completed prior to final approval. And then, related to the other township recommend, or one of the other ones, lots 8 and 9 shall have a shared driveway. Lots 10, 11, and 12 shall have a shared driveway. Lots 13 and 14 shall have a shared driveway. Driveway easements must be completed and recorded for each shared driveway. Lot 16 shall only be granted access via Fern Drive. And one other note I forgot to mention before, condition number 6 about the restriction to accessory structures, that condition was placed there in an effort with traffic concerns or increased traffic in that area in an effort to not have more houses. So there's potential that you could remove condition number 6 if we're going to then upgrade Fawn Drive to a proper road standard.
I probably wouldn't advise or vote to remove number 6 until we do the final plat to make sure everything's up to snuff.
Well, again, when the vote happens, it's locking in what the conditions would be.
Okay. I'll make that motion with conditions, but I do have a question, Madam Chair.
Yes.
What's the difference between a hammerhead cul-de-sac and a normal 150-foot we've been requesting or getting?
So We don't have that overhead projector, do we?
Not set up at this time.
Bummer. So I looked at the, what we call the AASHTO guide. AASHTO stands for the American Association of State Highway Transportation Officials. Kind of the overall design guide for roads throughout America. And in that, they have a segment on cul-de-sacs. And they basically have, and I'm just gonna approach the board. So here is your typical cul-de-sac, where the road is in the center of the circle. You guys can kind of see that?
Yep.
Yep.
What we would probably recommend in a situation like this is what we call kind of like a hammerhead,
Okay.
which is kind of the cul-de-sac is offset to the side. Since this is a developed area on the north, you'd want the
Cul-de-sac to the south.
cul-de-sac to the south, so you won't damage or impede on those individuals' homes on that side.
Okay.
Hammerheads also can be called kind of like a kind of hammerhead if you turn it this way. So it's basically like a little driveway, you drive in and you back out. I've heard them use both directions, but since our zoning guidelines recommend cul-de-sacs, we would go with something of this nature. And in this case, an engineer, since an engineer has to design it, is most likely going to pick this offset cul-de-sac, or sometimes known as a hammerhead. Does that make sense?
So it's still 150-foot diameter, or is it small?
Younger than me, could you bring it down to this end?
So here's that center one,
Yep.
where the road is centered on.
Can
kind
we
of the ball.
clarify that by the distance of
Okay.
the
And then
cul-de-sac?
here's the offset one.
Okay, that's,
So-
yep, all right.
But they would, as I understand it, would have to still meet those diameters with the 60-foot right-of-way, and then the,
Want me to
no,
switch over?
70-foot
What? Oh, sure,
Radius.
yeah, then we can see that cul-de-sac area.
for the right-of-way, and then the 60-foot radius top. I believe that's how it's set up, isn't it, in the ordinance?
Yeah, our subdivision ordinance requires 140 feet of like dedicated public right-of-way with 120 foot of actual road surface.
Yeah. Does that answer your question?
I think so.
Okay.
Commissioner
Commissioner
Newman made a
Newman?
motion to
To,
adopt the planning commission plus the other, conditions.
Our conditions that we added today,
These other,
Did
from the
attorney-
township.
no, well, Randy, by our lawyer, he suggested that we do not go with the
Road.
road that goes plumb through, because not at this point. Did I hear that correct?
For now.
For now?
For
On
now.
this, on this plat right now, today, not to put that on there?
Right, but they gotta upgrade Fawn Drive. Correct?
well, the way,
Well-
Jason, correct me so we get this clear.
Yeah.
The condition right now that they need to complete prior to final plating is to complete that development agreement between the developer, the township, and the county, which would then secure the upgrade of Fawn Drive.
Is someone on
I think
Zoom
he's
over
listening.
here?
Did you, Jason, did you catch that?
Somebody's
Still
got their
going.
Oh.
It's
computer on
delayed.
the
It's
side.
about a 5
That's why
second.
you're getting.
The issue is somebody has their YouTube playing, so it's causing a delay because they're having their YouTube while they're on the phone.
I won't, yeah. Did Jason hear you?
Jason, are you there yet?
We'll just give it a little bit.
Adam, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. So, board commissioner, I think the question was, how does the condition with the road improvement and the development agreement work? Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yes.
So in that, that condition would require the, developer, township, and county enter into a three-way development agreement. And in that development agreement, it would set forth the cost of the Fern Drive, improvements. It would set forth the funding, or cost allocation, to those improvements. It would set forth, a timeline for it to be done. So that wouldn't just, improvements wouldn't have to be done prior to final plat, but would just be set forth in that development agreement. And then there'd also be provisions in the development agreement that would, set forth what security the developer developer did follow through, with their agreement contained in that development agreement, there would be adequate security there for a public entity to complete the improvements to Fern Drive.
And if I may, Madam Chair, Jason, is that illegal? Are we okay by adopting what you're saying?
If you're asking that condition that Adam read, regarding the development agreement, I looked at the condition, that condition would be legal, it's proper. And the other thing is that the development agreement also gets recorded, so it's recorded against the properties. I would say that the issue is gonna be the negotiations of that development agreement between the developer and the township, because there is gonna be a determination of the cost sharing, and then the township's gonna have to determine how they wanna pass those costs on to, those lakeshore lot owners, whether they
No
work
information.
through some type of assessment process, or they take it out of their bridge and road funds. That'll be a discussion the township's gonna
Yeah,
have.
okay.
Madam Chair, I'd just like to add to that, then with that, we still sit with 15 property owners that have had nothing to say in a decision that you're gonna hand to them affecting their properties and their taxes.
And all those people have something to gain by purchasing that land across the road.
Okay. I guess my question at this point, and I'll have you guys weigh in, Randy made a motion. Is it a legal motion that we as a county will not come back with any legal action against us?
I think
Is that what you're hearing?
Yeah, I think what Jason is saying is that adding these two conditions would be acceptable. If you feel comfortable with that, so then there would be either 9, or if you remove number 6, then there'd be 8 conditions.
Read those two conditions. if you-
Okay, I'll read the proposed conditions here again. The developer must enter into a development agreement with the township and the county for the purposes of upgrading Fawn Drive to current road standards. The developer shall be responsible for the creation of the development agreement, which will be reviewed and approved by the township and the county. The approval of the development agreement shall be completed prior to final plat approval. And then the second one would be lots 8 and 9 shall have a shared driveway. Lots 10, 11, and 12 shall have a shared driveway. Lots 13 and 14 shall have a shared driveway. Driveway easements must be completed and recorded for each shared driveway. Lot 16 shall only be granted access via Fern Drive. And then again, if we should give consideration to removal of condition number 6, which states lots 1 through 7 shall be restricted to accessory structures only. No residential development be allowed on lots 1 through 7. And the reason I say we should give consideration to that is because that condition was placed there because of the nature of Fawn Drive. So if we're going to improve that, that may not be a condition that's necessary.
Okay. That encompasses your motion, Randy?
Yep.
Then I will ask for a second.
Does Gary hear it? Can Gary hear it?
Can Gary hear us, or is Gary?
Commissioner Kneisel, did you hear the motion? And they're asking for a second.
He's got to shut off one of his machines, I think, because he's got too many on.
Commissioner Kneisel, Commissioner Newman made a motion to accept the new conditions applied to the preliminary plat. They're asking for a second.
Lauren, I see you.
Just so I understand it. Was your motion for those two items or all of the township?
No, just the 2 items for the township.
Just so I understood it.
And then with the removal of condition 6 or keeping 6 in there?
You know, we're gonna have to wait till the final plat, till all the conditions are met.
Again, it
Just
stays
leave it in
there.
there for now. We can
Okay.
always take
All right,
it
so
out.
it'd be 9 total conditions, the 7 here and then the 2 more.
Yep.
I'll ask it again, is there a second?
Is Gary still on there?
I don't know if Gary's there or not.
There's that
but-
delay, so give him a minute.
Commissioner Kneisel, are you still on the phone?
Just ask if he can hear us. I'm still on. Okay.
Okay.
I will ask for the third time, is there a second? Having no second, I will up for discussion. Commissioners, what would you like to?
Madam Chair, that motion failed.
Motion failed. Exactly. Thank you.
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion to, oops.
That's just a delay.
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought somebody was trying to talk. Madam Chair, I will make the motion to approve the preliminary plat with the initial 7 conditions as brought forward from the Planning Commission, with the addition of just one of the things from the township in regards to the shared driveways on 210.
And then, okay, is
Do you
there?
need me to
a-
read what they would look like again?
I don't need them reread.
Okay.
I'm
I
only
think-
considering the one
Okay.
addition.
Is,
The last sentence of the resolution from the township, right? Is the only one you want to add?
Correct. Yep, and I think Adam actually even had that defined as which lots would share.
Right?
Yep.
Okay.
And that would be my recommendation, to go with the way he has it designed.
is there a second to that motion? The original ones plus adding the shared driveway. Driveways.
I'll second it.
Second by Gary. Commissioner Kneisel. I think it's, we should do a roll call vote. I should ask further discussion.
Can we, yep, Madam Chair. I just want to say is, we need to start listening to our townships. We need to start getting our townships more involved in stuff like this. This is a big frickin' plat. It's in my neighborhood. I do have concerns over it. When my township makes recommendations, I am gonna support them. So, leaving this road, backyard, barnyard, back in the 30s isn't gonna help anybody. So, is what it is.
Any other discussion? Okay, we'll do roll call. Denise?
Commissioner Erickson?
Yes.
Commissioner Kneisel?
Yes.
Commissioner Kircher?
Yes.
Commissioner Newman?
Nope.
Commissioner Becker?
And I'm going to say no, just the fact that when we have these private roads up alongside township roads, we have several of them that we've been working on in the past, and it'd be nice to try to work together with townships to upgrade them. It passes as Rod made the motion. With that, is there any reports or anything? Otherwise, I'll ask for adjourn.
So,
Second.
Okay, motion by Commissioner Newman, seconded by Commissioner Erickson. Thank you. Thank you all for